Good morning, welcome. Welcome everyone, welcome to Atlassian, welcome to GLiNTECH's Roadmap to Jira Service Management Success event. My name is Scanlon, I'm one of the directors at GLiNTECH, and I am so excited to have everyone here. First in-person event for a while. We managed to dodge the rain, so really great to see you all here. And I'm genuinely so excited about what we've got coming up this morning. I think we've got a good one for you. So much so I'm not going to waste any time. I want to talk about the plan for the next 90 minutes or so. We're going to do a roadmap of how you can improve your company, your ways of working using Jira Service Management. Now let me set the scene for you first of all, just to begin with. Really why you should care about this. The fact that you're all here is a really good first step. I want to kick off with some background and some insights on what we're seeing in the industry to maybe give you some inspiration on how you can kind of get better with your Jira setups at your company. Broadly speaking here, we're talking about Jira Service Management, but slightly more specifically, this concept of lean service management. Now, lean IT is really from lean manufacturing. It's really about the elimination of waste. And Atlassian kind of talks about this in different terms. You might have seen high velocity ITSM. Same kind of concept. And it's that perfect marriage between people, processes, and technology. It's what we've always been doing. But lean service management is really leaning into that. It's like the marriage between kind of ITSM and agile. Anyone who's done ITIL like V4 will see that's a far more common concept now. It's really about kind of working a lot more kind of value to customer, a lot quicker, and like I said, eliminating waste. But I'm not here to talk about frameworks. I'm much more pragmatic. In layman's terms, what does this mean? It really means we want to lift the quality of the work done. We want our tasks to follow a really streamlined workflow. And most importantly, that our people are working on the right tasks, the high value tasks that we want them to work on, and not working on kind of small things that can be automated away. Ideally, work's done right first time, and that's really what we're aiming for. Now, these concepts aren't particularly contentious, but what we're seeing is it's far more prominent now, particularly for IT managers who have had a rough few years trying to keep everyone operational during COVID. Keeping everyone connected with the access to the right tools when they need it has been a challenge. COVID's accelerated hybrid working by, 10 years. And most of the clients we're seeing are still playing catch up from a technology standpoint to make sure that their processes are able to support the rest of the company. So we've got a challenge. How do we make it easy for employees to get the resources and access that they need? And the other interesting thing we're seeing is it's not just IT anymore. This is bleeding over into all other parts of the business. Enterprise Service Management, ESM, another acronym you're going to see floating around, is really super simply the art of connecting people in a business who need something with the people who can give it to them, who can provide it to them. So we're seeing a lot of people really kind of think more holistically about how they actually deliver their services. You've got to really put your end user hat on and think in a far more customer-centric way when designing these. Is there one place that everyone knows where to go to get help? Have you got a good knowledge base set up so that people can help themselves? Are you integrating, with Team or with Slack or Teams? Because you need to be where your users work. We don't need more emails. And the last one here, streamlining with workflow and automation. It's probably the most obvious statement on there, yet it's the thing that we see done the least. People are really bad. They've got Jira and then they don't do anything with it. There's some real great smarts there, and we're going to see a bit later with some AI and conversational ticketing how you can really knock that to the next level. So I don't think anything we're saying here is particularly kind of contentious, but what I'm really interested in is no longer niche. These are some stats I pulled, some white papers that Atlassian had released, and really it was asking the question, where else in the business out with IT are people applying these lean ITSM principles? So one on the left will show you, customer service, that makes sense, but HR, we see HR coming up all over the place. It's so ripe for this, because think about all the processes. Employee onboarding, offboarding, equipment allocation, leave requests. There's a ton of stuff that can be looked after by the system instead of emails back and forth or more manual processes. And on the right is saying what practices are important now. Incident management always kind of leads the pack. Why? You've got to keep the lights on. Also, if you're a service desk manager looking after systems, it doesn't look great for you when the systems are down, so it tends to get a bit more focus. But what I really want to see is knowledge management, service requests, self-service. They should be much, much higher, because if you can focus in these areas, it pays dividends down the track, because what we're trying to do is shift left in terms of our support. We want as many people doing, level 0, that's self-service, ideally working down here. Why? Because the user gets their answer and results far quicker. Your agents are freed up to work on higher value tasks. It costs you less. There's literally no downside to it. It's a win-win for everyone. And yet, it's hard to kind of get done. Now, if you set up a proper knowledge base and have your processes automated away, and by automation, I mean things like service requests for password resets or access to a particular application, we can bake in approvals into that workflow, so it's not just a free-for-all, but it doesn't have any agents having to go and touch it and manually do it. You just automate it. So these little things can reduce the number of tickets that come in by up to 25% if done properly. And the ones that do come in have a far shorter mean time to resolution. So really worthwhile having a look at it. And this is what we're seeing in the market. This is some stats we pulled from GLiNTECH. These are the leads that came in for the 12 months to February. On the left-hand side, you can see the industries. Finance is quite heavily represented, but there's no vertical that's not looking into this. And on the right, this is what people are asking us for. And the two main ones are migrating to Jira Service Management, usually from a traditional, legacy, bloated, heavy, very process-centric system that's hard to use. And also best practice and training. People are like, I know it's better, just tell me how to do it. We want someone just to come in and drop it in for us. And this is the kind of takeaway that we've got from this. When I speak to our ITSM practice internally, it's just one of maturity. It's not whether or not this is right. Tech leaders know that there is a better way. They just haven't got around to doing it yet. It's just a case of doing it. And why? Because we're all busy, and I totally get it. And I would never, some presentations will put a slide up now with a cartoon of someone with a wheelbarrow and a square wheel and saying, we're too busy to innovate or too busy to change. I don't want to be pious about it. We are all busy. I like to be super pragmatic when it comes to IT strategy. So that brings down to really the whole point of this morning. I wanted this morning to be some inspiration, some tips, some advice on how you can take some small steps to nudge the needle in the right direction of improving how you work, while also keeping your other 101 plates spinning. So hopefully you'll take away ideas that you can get started with sooner rather than later, and it doesn't need this big bang transformation approach. Now luckily, it's not just me that's doing it. I'm so glad we've got a couple of great speakers. We've got Mark from Atlassian. He's the partner technical architect for ITSM. He's going to take us through the ITSM vision at Atlassian and giving us a sneak peek into some new features that are coming up, and a look at the ITSM roadmap, so that's great. And also really lucky to have Chris Gardiner from Tennis Australia. He's going to share the story that they have on implementing Jira Service Management to help manage the IT support at the Australian Open this year. I don't know if anyone here has been to the Australian Open. I was down there in January. It's a hectic event. I can only imagine the IT support requirements underpinning it, so really excited to hear that. So that's kind of what this morning is shaping up to look like. We'll have a couple of presentations. We'll finish around 10:30, depending on how engaged you are with questions. We'll keep them mainly to the end, just to keep us on track. We'll have a quick 5-minute break in between the two speakers, so you can grab another coffee, grab some more food. And we've also got some demo stations set up at the back, Jira Service Management, Assets and Opsgenie. So if you see something and you want a bit more information, just go and grab one of the guys. We've got a ton of GLiNTECH staff here. They're wearing the black polos. We've got some Atlassian friends as well. While we're doing introductions, anyone who's not kind of heard of GLiNTECH or been part of GLiNTECH before, we're a platinum partner with Atlassian. We've got offices in Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra. Atlassian have got partners all over the world. They're not allowed to have favourites, but here we are. We're a one-stop Atlassian shop. We help customers with licensing, consulting, support, training, big, small. So just know that there's plenty of help there. A lot of very clever people who kind of evangelize Atlassian at GLiNTECH. Just a quick call out. Some of you might be on the data center version of Jira Service Management. Some of you will be in the cloud. There are some feature differences between them. Atlassian Cloud is the kind of what they're focusing on. So some of the newer features are cloud only, but most of the improvements that we're talking about today can be achieved in both, just with a slight kind of tweak between them. A few more marketplace apps are needed in DC. Atlassian have actually acquired most of these and baked it into the product. So it's a bit more native in cloud, but the end result is either or, you'll be fine. If you're still on server, which isn't up here, the server end of life for Jira is coming around fast. It's coming around in February 2024, so you're gonna have to make a decision about going to one of these other ones. Probably cloud, but some people have to go to the data center. I got asked, when should I do it? How long does it take? The old proverb here about trees kind of applies to cloud migrations. They are complex things, and they can take a really long time, longer than expected, if you don't approach them correctly. So we've done a ton of work here. The team at GLiNTECH built this whole framework to help people deliver it. It expedites your migration. It's been really successful to date. I'm so proud of the team. They actually won the Atlassian Partner Award for Cloud Migration Services globally. So they know what they're talking about. If you've got any questions, or even if you just want a nod in the right direction, just reach out and we can talk to you. And the last thing on this is, if you see something today and you are inspired to go back to your company and kick it off, but the powers that be need some more convincing, we've got a load of white papers, case studies, resources, tales from the front line that we can use to help you do a bit of that internal PR. We're more than happy to help with that as well. But back to the topic in question, how can we help you get the most from Jira Service Management quickly and, of course, easily? I'm going to hand over to Mark. He's from Atlassian. He is originally from South Africa, came to Sydney in 2017, spent 10 years working with IBM and is now in Atlassian and knows all things ITSM, so he's the right person for this. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause.
Thanks very much, Robin. Before I start and get into some of the topics I'm going to talk about today, I think there's just two things I'd like to mention is, well, first, thank you very much for being here. I think this is my first live event in over 3 years. Most of us have been doing this on Zoom, and it really is lovely to see so many people here. And we were really worried about the rain. I know Robin and I were worried. So at least, people have come into the city, which is really important. So thanks very much. The second thank you I'd like to do is really to Robin and GLiNTECH and Beck from my team. These events don't happen just on their own. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. And they really have done a great job. Just the fact that everyone is here is testament to that. So thank you very much, Robin and the team. And also to Chris from Tennis Australia, to have a customer come in and speak to you, and is testament to the way JSM is being found in the market. We were having a good chat a little bit earlier, and his experience with JSM, so he'll share some of those things with you today. Just in terms of me, so apologies, yes, I am South African. So if anyone doesn't have any questions about JSM, I'm quite happy to talk about rugby. Not so much the cricket. The cricket hasn't been going so well, but quite happy to talk about rugby. I have been with Atlassian since October, and I've sort of moved teams in the last couple of months to the partner team. So I just wanted to give you a background on that. And the reason I want to do that really is to show you that Atlassian really is investing in JSM and ITSM. It's something that we're seeing in the market. It's our fastest growing product, and we're investing in resources. The development teams are getting a lot bigger, and we really believe it'll be our biggest product within the next couple of years. So that's really the team that I come from is really that partner team. We look after partners. We try to help our partners get through, for example, the ITSM certification that we've got now. So we've introduced that ITSM certification, and that is really there to show our customers that our partners know exactly what they're talking about when you actually invite them to come and help you with your implementation of JSM. So really that's there for that. And it's a pretty rigorous program that our partners go through. So to get through that is a really tough thing. All right, so I'll quickly start. So just some topics I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to go through a bit of a history lesson of JSM. What we found in the market is that JSM, or what it was originally called was Jira Service Desk, is not that well known. And I think we've kind of done not the greatest job in terms of the advertising of JSM, and I think that's really getting better. So so that's something I'll talk about a little bit. Then I'm going to go through modern operations, so the dev and ops and how we integrate those, and I'll show you some information on that. And then modern support, so how do we get business teams involved in service management? So those are the 3 topics I'm going to go through today. What I've also done, just slightly differently to what I've usually done, instead of just having a whole lot of slides, is I've actually recorded a couple of demos of JSM and the product itself. It's the first time I'm doing it, so we're going to sort of test it out. It can be a little bit small on the screen, unfortunately, but there are the side screens if you want the people in the back to have a look. Hopefully you can run through it. If you find you can't really see it and you want to see it afterwards, quite happy to show you on my laptop, and we can go through it in that way. All right, so a bit of a history lesson on JSM. So JSM, or Jira Service Desk, started back in 2013, and that was really when Atlassian realized that over 40% of our customers were actually using Jira software to do service management. So that's where Jira Service Desk was born. A fairly immature product. It was missing quite a few sort of functions and features that a typical full-scale ITSM product would have. So over the last 8 years, really that's where Jira Service Management has sort of advanced its functionality. They've put a lot of effort into that. And in 2020, they changed the name from Jira Service Desk to Jira Service Management. Okay? And I'll take you through some of the tools that we've got now that we've actually acquired to actually, so I think it shows you how quickly we've been able to do that. And a lot of that has been how we've actually purchased some of these tools and integrated them into JSM. You've always got to show this slide. We are an enterprise-grade ITSM or service management product. We've been shown by Gardiner as the leader in the Magic Quadrant, and we're a leader in Forrester. So, for customers that are enterprise-grade customers that are looking at different products, at least you have the knowledge and the know-how that, we do know what we're talking about. So quickly on the platform, because I think it's quite important to understand how the shift that Atlassian has had over the last couple of years. Around 5 years ago, Robin was talking about server and data center. So we've really, about 5 years ago shifted to our cloud. Okay, so I don't really like that term, honestly. I think because cloud just tends to say that we're running a whole lot of servers and we moved a whole lot of servers from server and data center into cloud. That's not what we did. So JSM, or the Atlassian platform, was born on the cloud in AWS, and it is a true microservices environment. So if you see a lot of our competitors, you may have to go through an upgrade cycle every couple of years, and you've got to go through a different version and plan for it and test for it. You don't do that with JSM or Atlassian products on the cloud in general. It is all seamless to the customer. There is no upgrade cycle. It's done. There's updates done on the product weekly. Okay. So our entire product set runs on what we call the Atlassian platform. So whether that's Confluence or Jira Service Management or Jira Software or Jira Work Management, the fact that it is running on one platform allows then the integration between those tool sets to really happen really, really seamlessly. We've got all the products, and I'm going to go through some of those products now. And we have a really, really powerful marketplace. So we have a lot of vendors that build apps for JSM, Confluence, Jira Service Management that our customers can purchase, and it automatically integrates really seamlessly with our product set. There's a huge number of marketplace apps, so if you ever need to find something that's not in JSM by default, you can have a look at the marketplace. Okay. All right, so going into some of the functions or tools that have now been integrated into JSM. OpsGenie is one of them. OpsGenie provides event management to JSM. So an incident that is created in JSM can then be sent into OpsGenie, and all of the alerting that happens to your teams, whether that be via SMS or email or a phone call, happens from OpsGenie. So that's the integration between JSM and OpsGenie. But then there's also the opposite integration, where you've got your monitoring teams or your monitoring tools that you've got out there, monitoring servers and applications. Those events can be sent into Opsgenie. It becomes kind of that event management console, or the manager of managers, as I normally term it. And those events can then be ported into incidents in JSM. So they can be tracked as incidents in JSM when they've occurred in the monitoring system. So that's Opsgenie. Mindville, we had a gap from a CMDB perspective. So we purchased Mindville. They had a product called Insight, and Insight was then renamed into Assets, and this is our full CMDB solution. So all of that is done with Assets. Code Barrel. Within the Atlassian platform, we've really been sort of focused on ensuring that our platform is easy to use. So Code Barrel was purchased because of the low-code, no-code ability of Code Barrel to do automation. So the automations are really easy to use. It's not a long scripting language that your developers or ITSM administrators need to learn. It's really, really easy to use. And the fact that automation can be done globally across all the Jira products that you have in your organization. ThinkTilt, we identified that we had a slight gap when it came to a forms builder within the Atlassian platform. And the product that we actually purchased through ThinkTilt was Proforma. And I've got a little bit of a demo on that, on how Proforma works. And it's also very low-code type form builders for your teams. Help, and I'm just going to go on to the Precept AI because they kind of work together. And I'm going to show you this in a demo as well. So Help is our conversational ticketing. So it allows your teams to create tickets in Slack or in Teams. They may log a call. They can actually log a ticket in those tools, and that was automatically ported to JSM, and the request or the incident is created in JSM. What we've then done is we're looking at, and it's in beta at the moment, is our virtual agent, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And that virtual agent then takes the place of a human agent in terms of actually having a conversation in Slack. All right, so that's generally, one more. Chart.io does all our reporting and our dashboards. Okay, so those are the products. So what sort of difficulties are we seeing within customers, and what problem are we really trying to solve? So really it's around modern operations and modern support. What we found with our customers is that we have this concept of DevOps, but does anyone actually do it? Because what tends to happen is the development teams are doing something, the IT ops are doing something, and they're too busy. An incident happens on a server, and then someone sends an email to the development team. They then log a change. They have to go through a change, and it becomes a big cumbersome process because there's no integration between tools. The same happens with our business teams. Our business teams have been really neglected from a service management perspective for a long time. So everything's focused on IT, not on our business teams. So that's the kind of the issues that we're trying to solve with JSM. Gardiner did a study, and they found that if ITSM teams don't adopt an agile approach, what tends to happen is those development teams bypass the ITSM processes. So they don't want to, they will bypass them, and what happens then, IT doesn't have any visibility of what's going on. Deployments are done in the background, and IT has no idea. So then an incident happens, and no one knows who did a deployment because they're using CI/CD pipelines, and really IT's got no visibility. Also, what happens within business teams, if we don't incorporate our business teams into service management, then those teams go and select their own tools, their own service management tools to do their services for their business. Again, then you have a plethora of tools through the organization, which just creates complexity. So how do we solve this? Well, we have a concept at Atlassian around autonomy with alignment. So what does that really mean? It means that what we're trying to do is allow our development teams and our business teams to have the autonomy to run their business like they'd like to run the business, but have the alignment to operations, so that there's visibility within operations and you're handling the risks within the IT ops team. So that's really what we want to do. So I think there's two bits I'll show here. One is the fact that what we do is we create integrations between our CI/CD pipelines for deployment and our change management process. So when a development team is doing deployments, and remember, this could be hundreds, if not thousands of deployments a week, you do not want your development teams going around and logging manual changes within the environment on the ITSM system. Really, you want to free flow those and allow those development teams to have the autonomy to do their deployments. So they will do their deployments in, for example, test and into production. And what you then do is create deployment gating. So that deployment gating says, okay, we have a production change. It goes through some automation to work out what sort of risk that change is. And then you put a gate in front of it. And you say, right, that deployment is stopped. We're going to wait for an authorization to take place. So a ticket will then go to someone to authorize that change. That change gets authorized, and the deployment automatically gets deployed. Okay, so there's no waiting around, phoning people, or sending emails about a change that needs to be logged. This is all done automatically within JSM. And we have, for example, this is with Bitbucket pipelines, but we have all the other development tools, CI/CD pipeline tools that are integrated into JSM as well. So this really frees up your development team to not have to do all that manual work. And I think most of us will agree, if you don't have to do changes manually, it really does free up the development teams to do what they need to do. But I come from an operations background. I was started in my life in the banking industry, and with that operations background, I tend to always look at it from operations perspective. So this is great for development teams because you're taking the work away from them. But what about the operations team? What is the real benefit to the operations team? So what I'm going to show now quickly is, I'll leave this on the blank screen, is a demo of an incident coming into Jira Service Management that's been logged. It's been assigned to me. You'll see some Slack integration that I've done as well. And then it will run through the process of being able to investigate the issue based on what has happened within the deployments and the change calendar. So I'll quickly play this, and I'll just quickly talk you through it. It is fairly quick. A lot of these are fairly quick, as you'll see. So I've received a Slack message up in the top right-hand side, and it's been assigned to me. Okay, I go into my Slack, and I can see the ticket. Okay. So I've gone into the ticket now. It's automatically opened JSM to have a look at the incident that's been logged and has been assigned to me. I can see a mobile application is crashing. It's currently a major incident. And I can see the affected service is the billing service. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to see what deployments have happened around the same time that this incident occurred. So there's an investigation button at the top. I'm going to click on that, and it automatically opens the investigation timeline. And you'll see I'll go back to the date that this incident occurred, which is around the 4th. I can see there were 4 deployments that were done into the environment. So I can have a look at those. You'll see the green means that they were successful. And you'll see the orange there means that it likely cancelled or failed. So it was a failed deployment. So I see there that this one failed, this deployment, number 187 failed. What I can now do is select this as a potential cause, because you may have multiple deployments. So what you can do is select it as a potential cause and then come back to it when you start to do further investigation. So I've now clicked that it's a potential cause for this issue. But now what I want to do is I want to see where the deployment was done, okay? And I also want to see why the deployment was done. So I can go into the deployment. I can see that it was done into production. I'm now in Bitbucket, in the CI/CD pipeline in Bitbucket. And what I'll now do is have a look, well, what was the project that initiated this deployment? Okay, so this is now going into Jira Software. So I click on there. I'm opening the issue within Jira Software. And I can see this was marketing service upgrade to platform. So that's the project or request that was done to the development team to start doing these deployment and do the software upgrade. So you'll see in the middle that they did a deployment into test that failed initially. They then did a test that completed. They then did a staging deployment that completed, and then the one in production with either cancelled or failed. So there you can see the integration between Jira Software, Jira Service Management, and the Bitbucket pipelines all works seamlessly for the team. So that's the benefit when you're trying to investigate an issue to the IT operations team, especially when there is an outage or there isn't a major incident. This allows you to go and have a look without even phoning the development team to find out what they did. They can now see it in Jira Service Management and JSM and Jira Software. Okay, it's pretty powerful stuff. All right, so that's the first sort of demo I've shown today. We're going to show today. So what does this really give you? What are the benefits of that? Provides you with autonomous development teams, takes the work off them as I mentioned, and then it aligns it to operations and removes a lot of the risk from operations. All right, so what about modern support? So now we're moving on to the business teams rather than looking at development. Modern support, what we really want is we want autonomous employees as well as we want autonomous teams. So autonomous employees, we want our employees to be able to get information as quickly as possible from, for example, a knowledge base before they actually log an incident. You want to put shift left, as Robin suggested, to get them to solve their issues themselves and take away the work from the agents as much as possible. And you want to provide as many channels as possible for people to log requests. And I'll show you that a little bit later. We also want autonomous teams. I was at the ITSM conference last week in Adelaide, and I spoke to multiple customers that said to me, it is too difficult to include business teams in our general ITSM processes and our ITSM tools because it takes too long to spin up a project or a service project for a business team. It just takes them too long. And then also, once they've spun it up, they do not have the bandwidth to look after it for that business team. So what we do is we provide really an easy way of spinning up service projects. Okay, and I'm going to actually do a quick demo on that, as well as being able to quickly configure a service project. So we have a concept of organizational managed teams. Now, an organizational managed team might be the IT part of ITSM. So looking after incident problem change, that would be an organizational managed team. But then we've also got business or team managed teams. So you give the ability for your business team to run it themselves. They create the workflows, they create the forms, and it all seamlessly works within a single portal within your business. So if a person needs to come and find, for example, I'm going to do a demo on the legal bit of this. They need to log a legal request. They can go into the same portal that you would log a request to IT, but you can log a request to your business team. Okay, I'm going to show you that. All right, so this is this demo. It is really quick, and I'll try and talk through it very quickly. Okay, so this is a list of sort of the service projects that I've got in my demo environment. I'm just going to click on Create Project. So I'm creating a new service project here. What we provide, and this is provided for free with the product, and it's always developing. There's always new ones coming in. We create templates for business teams. Okay, there's a huge number of templates that we provide, which provides things like the actual requests and the issues that you can log. So here I'm just choosing the legal template. I quickly choose a legal template. I'm going to give it a name quickly. So I'm just calling it the legal department. I have more than one, so I'm just going to call it number 3. And then I'm going to create the project. Okay. JSM goes in the background, creates the project. That is literally it. We now have a project that is visible in the portal for people to use, and the project's already set up. There's queues. You see I clicked there and I went into the portal. This is just a standard green background that I'm using, but you can configure this. There's 2 requests that you can log at the moment within this template, and here I'm requesting a contract review. So quickly and easily, you've got a legal team up and running. But now what if you want to actually edit that template and add a form to it? So now I'm going into Pro Forma. So I'm going to go into the configuration of forms. What we provide in forms when I create the forms is also form templates. Right, so apart from the project templates, we also provide form templates. You can see that list on the right-hand side. It's a really significant list. I'll just do a quick scroll down of that list. But what I'm going to do quickly is just search for a template. So I'm going to search for a legal template. I can see one there, completion of legal review. I've selected that template. That's the template that I'm going to insert. Okay. So now I've created that template. I can then go and add different fields that I just drag and drop into the template. Really, really easy to do. I'm just going to save this, and then I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to choose the request form to associate this form with. Okay, so I've chosen that contract review, and I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go back to the portal and show you the new form. So I'm back in the legal department thing, and then I've gone back to the request for contract view, and there's the form now added into that template for request. So now you can see how easy it is to honestly get a business team up and running with a service project. Whereas this may have taken months with some other tool sets, in under 2 minutes, I can get a business team up and running. I just need to allocate the users for that to that project so they've got access to it, and you're done. Okay. All right, so that's the second demo. So what about the autonomous employees that I talked about earlier? What you also want to do is provide your employees with multiple ways of being able to log requests. If you look at the way the younger generation, I've got a teenage son and a teenage daughter, and I'm sure many of you can relate. If I try and phone my daughter or my son, most of the time they won't even pick up the phone. In fact, I think sometimes they don't even believe that the phone has that functionality, right? They would rather, as soon as I phone them, it gets cancelled, they message me back, why are you phoning me, right? They want to use SMS and chat functionality. At Atlassian, 35% of our tickets to IT go through Slack. That's 35%. That's a huge number. And it's increasing all the time. So in terms of, obviously, we've got our service portal. You can log an email. Now remember, all of this is available to each of those service projects that you saw me create. This functionality is available to all those service projects. So if someone wants to create a knowledge base article for legal, it's built in with Confluence. We provide it for free. So you've got Confluence for free for knowledge base for each of those service projects. You can then create the chat within Slack or Teams also for each project. For each team can have their own Slack channel or own Teams channel to log requests. So what is really the chat tool though, and what is the benefit of using that? So I'm just going to go into that now. So what we term chat is actually conversational ticketing. So what do we really mean by conversational ticketing though? So and you'll see on the left-hand side is Slack on this, and on the right-hand side is JSM. So when an employee or a customer comes into Slack and wants to log a request, they will then automatically just use the ticketing little icon, and you pin that to what you've typed into the message. It automatically creates a JSM request or incident or issue in JSM. Okay, once that's done, the agent, the human agent, can now have a conversation with the person who's logged the call. You don't go back to JSM and then type something in there. Yes, you can do that, but that would then send an email and someone goes and responds. The whole conversation happens in Slack. Now, that's easy to do, which is pretty cool, but also all of that conversation is now logged in JSM. Now, why is that important? Well, if, for example, that issue can't be solved by that agent, then another agent that comes on board can see all the history and the chat that's happened with the human agent initially. And also, once this is closed and say it gets reopened or logged again, then this information is all available to whoever takes on that next call, or if it's reopened, all that information is already in the call. So that's really the benefit of conversational ticketing. Right, so where are we moving to though? Because this is really important. What we're moving to is conversational help. So rather than conversational ticketing, which is still in the background, we want to move to conversational help. So our virtual agent is currently in beta. and we'll go into that a little bit later. But what we're trying to do now is replace within Slack that conversation that you were having with the with the human agent. We want to replace that with the virtual agent. So once that happens, then the conversation happens with the virtual agent, and if that person can't find the assistance they need from the virtual agent, then they have the ability then to click, no, I'm not happy, this is not helping me, automatically log an issue within JSM to a human agent, and then the human agent can take over. So really that's what we're trying to do. So I've got a quick demo on this. This is obviously it's in beta, it hasn't been released. We're in an open beta at the moment, but we have it running in a demo environment, and actually we're using it for our IT department and our HR department at the moment, but I can't use that, so I've got a demo environment for it. So I'm just going to play this, and I'll talk you through this. Apologies, I know it is a little bit small. If you need to see it a bit later, I can do that. So I'm just typing in, my VPN is not working, and the assist bot comes up, and you'll see it come up on the right-hand side. It says, sounds like you can't connect or having errors connecting to VPN. I've said yes. It's now giving me, when connecting to VPN, do you get an error message? And I can click yes, I'm getting the certification validation error. Okay, and now it gives me a couple of steps to try and solve it, but it also gives me a knowledge base article. So I've clicked on the knowledge base article, and then I can have a look and follow these steps to hopefully solve my issue. So automatically you can go straight into the knowledge base, provide that to the employee. Right, so now what I'm doing is I'm saying, no, this still didn't help me. Maybe I didn't want to look through the knowledge base, or maybe it just didn't help. So I've automatically created a ticket now. I can see that the ticket is now being processed in the background. You can see the ticket number has now appeared, and I've got a Slack message to say that the ticket has been logged. All right, I've clicked on it, and now I've gone into the portal view that we sort of showed you earlier. This is me as an employee now looking at my portal view, and I can see the issue that's been logged. You'll see now it's already resolved. Okay, so within this development environment, we've got some automation that runs in the background that as soon as an issue is created, we automatically close it just to keep things clean. So obviously that wouldn't happen in a real live environment. Someone would take the ticket, and then it would be assigned to someone, and they would run through it. But you can see this one, just with the automation, it's already been resolved. All right, so that's how we use the virtual agent within Teams, or at the moment it's with Slack, but it is coming for Teams as well. All right, so why is this agent how do we differentiate with this agent? One is it's available to each of your service projects. So the same way you could have the same chat functionality, you can have the virtual agent for each of your service projects, the same way you can have the knowledge base, so they can build their intents. It's again designed to be low-code, no-code type integration. So they can build the intents within the virtual agent, for example, for the legal team that I just created. They can then run through that, create the intents, create a tailored model that they need, and it's seamlessly integrated into their Slack channel for their service team. That's really the power of the virtual agent. Okay, this is my last slide. Just some information on the fact that I mentioned that we were actually running this within our IT environment at the moment. There's just some stats down the bottom since we've had it running in July. This is some stats from November, the 22nd of November to the 16th of January. The resolution rate, we had 877 tickets handled by the virtual agent. Now that's 877 tickets that didn't have to go to a human agent. Right? Really freeing up your agents that are pretty busy already, frees them up to hopefully look at something a little bit more important than some of the other things that maybe need to get logged against the IT team. The other one just to be interested in here is the active required rate. So what does that really mean? It means that the virtual agent picked up the issue, it understood that what the intent was from the user, it picked it up. It wasn't necessarily able to solve it, but all the information that it gathered was then sent into the JSM incident or request or issue, and an agent was able to use that to then help the actual customer. Now, why is that important? It means the customer doesn't have to then go, I've already just gone through my whole issue with the virtual agent, and now I need to go and explain it to a human agent. But you take that away. So what you're really providing is all that information that the customer's already provided to the agent is now available to the human agent. And that was, 53% of the issues were in that category. So where do we need to I'll come to questions now. So where do we need to really concentrate? Is really on the escalation rate. Those are issues that the virtual agent was unable to understand at all. So we know that we need to go back and have a look at those issues and work out why it couldn't find the answer for the employee or the customer. And just to end, I was chatting to the product team for Virtual Agent. They're really keen. They've got their beta program. It's an open beta at the moment. If any of you are running JSM, they're keen to get people onto it and as part of the beta. So if you'd like to be part of the beta, please let me know after this, and we can look at adding you to the beta. All right, so I think I've stuck to my 40 minutes, or just under. I know Robin wanted me to. Thank you very much.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, thank you so much to Mark. I thought that was excellent. I'm super pumped about some of this stuff. I hope you guys are too. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to our ITSM team at GLiNTECH. As of this morning, I just got the notification that we have just got the ITSM specialization that Mark talked about. So kudos to the GLiNTECH team for doing that. There are a lot of hoops to jump through. If anyone from Atlassian's listening, I think potentially a few too many, but but it allows you to be discerning when picking a partner, so yeah, I'm glad we've got it. And if you were intrigued with anything Mark talked about in the tools, we've got some demo stations at the back, so just keep your eyes out. There's, over on the right-hand side of the window, they've got little signs. There's JSM, there's incidents, there's assets, and if you want any kind of demo on pretty much anything else, we can tee that up afterwards as well. If Mark has inspired you to do this, see how easy it is to create service projects? Don't go in blind, don't fumble around. We've got some really good training courses coming up. These are the ones I thought might be of interest, but there is a whole suite on our website. There's actually some public courses coming up on these dates, so if it's just you, you can go into a public course. They're between half a day and a day. They're presentation, demonstration, and of course the all-important hands-on. They're, I know I'm biased, but they're dead good. People really enjoy them, and you come out kind of empowered to actually make the most from the tools, which you can see now are, unlike the old days where you had to have like a degree to do kind of post fixes and post functions and workflows in the back end. It's all kind of low code, no code at the front, just building up your service desk, building your forms, building your automations. We've got Chris Gardiner coming on next. He's kindly flown up to Melbourne to share the story about how they implemented JSM at the Open. But first, we'll have a quick 5-minute break, grab another coffee, grab some food. The main bathrooms are round the other side. It will be 5 minutes, so don't go too far. And when you come back, we'll have Chris from tennis. Thanks, folks. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming back. As I say, we've got so much great stuff this morning that I want to keep us moving. Really glad to be introducing our next guest, Chris Gardiner. He's come up from Melbourne. He works for Tennis Australia. They have been doing a lot of work at uplifting their ITSM processes and particularly the tools. And they did some very specific uplifted improvements for the Australian Open this year. So Chris is going to talk us through it. So can you please give him a very warm welcome for Chris Gardiner.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, it's great to be here talking about our journey with JSM. I joined Tennis in late 2021. So in tennis terms, we tend to describe our tenure by how many AOs we've survived. I've just recently done my second, so I'm pretty fresh in terms of tennis tenure. So I work as an infrastructure solution architect in tech operations. For the last 12 months, my prime focus has really been this migration onto a more mature IT service management platform. I've worked in IT service management for about 18 years, mostly in a consulting function and across banking and telecommunications and a bit of manufacturing. My specialties are configuration management, integration, and I have a particular interest in runbook automation and orchestration, which I'll talk you through some of the future vision around that in tennis. So to introduce tennis and what we're about, so Tennis Australia is the principal governing body for tennis across Australia. We partner with state-based tennis organisations, member associations, and just your regular neighbourhood clubs, really to promote and organise tennis at all levels. You know, we're talking from new starters, school programs, all the way up to competition elite. We oversee the provision of coaching and training programs for players across all ages and skill levels, and the management of a network of tennis facilities right across Australia. So just looking at, you know, the technology we use to manage that. So we manage and support a nationwide network of infrastructure and services really to assist those various different groups in managing and kind of promoting tennis. This includes, you know, underpinning this is a mix of different systems and architectures, from on-prem DC-hosted legacy and bespoke applications, right through to, you know, cutting-edge commercial cloud, and a couple of niche vendor SaaS-hosted applications, particularly around the event. So why did we choose JSM as the best product? So we did an evaluation. We didn't want anything that was too complex and onerous from a process perspective, but also wanted something that really covered all of our requirements around, you know, developing a maturing IT service management process and practice, and being able to really get people involved in that and get people to take ownership of what we were trying to do. So prior to 2018, you probably had a relatively mature IT service management practice on one of the legacy tool sets. Through attrition and, you know, the associated loss of knowledge and discipline, you know, that all kind of fell by the wayside a wee bit in some areas, and we needed to spin up a quick help desk solution, which really, in the end, ended up only supporting very basic help desk and IT and incident management. So with a review of event operations in AO21, we identified some risks that really needed to be addressed and needed, you know, more of a comprehensive solution to support, you know, integrated incident changing configuration management. Choosing JSM was fairly simple. Tennis already used the Atlassian products in Jira software and delivery, and also for Confluence. Confluence was our documentation platform. So JSM was obviously a perfect integrated partner with that. Aligns with our strategic direction. You know, Atlassian's a leader in the ITSM space, has good best practice alignment, and it supports TA principles of rapid IT and DevOps agile integration. It integrates with our existing stack and offers a familiar interface and experience. So getting people up to speed with how to manage an incident when they're used to managing an epic or a user story, it's pretty similar interface, so it becomes quite easy to navigate. We're also trying to drive to efficient and responsive IT. So, you know, implementation of Asset, the CMDB introduction into the JSM product, really tick boxes for us. We want to use that to drive proactive IT so that when an incident is raised, we understand exactly what customer-facing service that impacts. We can assess, we can prioritise it appropriately. We can actually get proactive notification out to consumers of those services. We also want it to be scalable and adaptable to meet varying needs. So Tennis is a unique sort of organisation in that 8 months of the year we run BAU, which is generally corporate support, email support, access to OneDrive and file repositories and the like. For 4 months of the year, we spin up into probably 2 to 3 times the size we normally are, focusing specifically on the Summer of Tennis, which covers interstate events right across Australia, leading into the main draw AO, which of course everybody knows. As Robin mentioned before, you know, if you've ever been to the AO, it's pretty frantic and very, very busy, huge number of people moving about the place. and obviously games, matches starting and finishing at any point in time. So we've kind of we need to be very agile. We need to be able to respond very quickly and meet expectations, get things working the way that they need to work in pretty rapid fashion. So I'll talk through our implementation journey. We're pretty ambitious with the way that we do things at Tennis, and quite often things need to move from planning to delivery in a very short period of time. So we implemented the initial phase of JSM, which was really replacing our existing tool set. So as I said, it was the legacy platform supported incident management primarily, so incident was obviously the first cab off the rank. We also wanted to put in some managed change process so that we can actually be across things as and when they change the tool in Tennis. So we cut over from the legacy tool to JSM literally the 1st of November last year. So just to give you an idea of time frame, we have interstate events kicking off mid-December. So we kind of had to get our gear on and actually get things up and moving. The 1st of November is 65 days out from the AO main event. So we did a full migration of incident management, implementation of that basic change. Really wanted to pilot in this year's event a couple of key parts of the event logistics which caused us headaches in the past. So we have an event management system which manages logistics for the wider Summer of Tennis. That is built, it's an in-house application that we've built ourselves many years ago, runs on a legacy technology which tends to be a little problematic. Supported completely internally, and just to give you an idea of criticality, it is the centre point for player accreditation, visitor accreditation, access to the site, scheduling of courts, so it's a pretty key tool. The second area we wanted to focus on was our transport system. So our transport system is hosted by an offshore partner. It's also supported offshore. But this is responsible for getting players to and from their games and out to practice courts in between. So it's a pretty key part of the event. We also wanted to include our partner field techs. So as I mentioned, we run a set of interstate tournaments. Those aren't supported by Tennis people. We engage external parties to be the hands and feet on the ground. But we had an opportunity this year of centralising the support process so that there's one place to go for IT support. But we needed an efficient way of engaging those remote resources to address any issues that need hands-on attention. A target state for us is an ongoing iterative value delivery. So we really just want to implement that continuous improvement practice. So we've adopted that in our plan to deploy JSM out to its full maturity for Tennis. We have those ongoing reviews of results and metrics and how we can do things better in the next cycle. So up to the AO, this is kind of our pivotal point in the JSM journey for us. I mentioned the event support system and the transport support, those two key systems that we support for the event. And we decided to take a pretty generic approach to the way that we serve those. So we did a purpose-built service portal experience for them so that we could give them a link to click which would bring them to the specific support area for the app that they worked with primarily. The customer experience through the customer portal gave them direct connection to support. So they can log a ticket, submit the ticket, and actually communicate with IT through that ticket. So rather than needing to scrounge through hundreds of unread emails, because the event is pretty busy, to try and find out the information they need, they had one place to go. They have quick access to updates and status, so if we've done something while they've been off shift, they come onto their shift, they understand what's moved since. And there's proactive fault notifications, so if there's an issue with the EMS system, this was a mechanism of us being able to broadcast out to all of the users that, hey, we have these issues, here's a link to a workaround, we'll keep you up to date as we move through the ticket. In terms of our transport support, as I mentioned, it's supported by an overseas partner. So we also use Jira to get all of their engineers working on the ticket at once. So rather than us in previous years having to receive a ticket at Tennis, raise another ticket with the vendor group and do the back and forth communication and update, that required a Tennis person to do all of that. The direct engagement allowed an engineer to pick up a ticket in India, respond to it with a request for further information or some specific questions, and the customer being able to ask those questions and participate in that conversation directly, which fundamentally changed the support model for the transport from previous years. As I mentioned also with the interstate events, we have precinct partners. The results for them were the service desk were able to quickly triage and prioritise those interstate event tickets and assign to a person who's on shift on the ground 5 minutes walk away from that person raising the issue. The interstate event staff remain notified of updates, so again they had mobile devices kitted out with a JSM application and they could actually be receiving push notifications as the ticket moved through its life cycle. Our on-site staff connected into JSM enabled the precinct staff are able to raise tickets within JSM without needing to phone anybody, send an email to anybody. So as they were having conversations with the person who's having the issue, they can be getting a DBA back in Melbourne to look into the issue. The other thing I'll say is that the AO, is not a 9 to 5 or a 24/7 operation. It's really we're there as long as the games are being played. So I don't know if you followed the tennis much, but we had a couple of games that went into 11, 12 o'clock early hours of the morning. Operations runs for 2 hours past the end of play. So that is going to span more than one shift for a team. So one of the good things we found with consolidation of all of that information, communication, all the relevant information in one place, was shift handover was a breeze. Like we'd produce a view of all of the open tickets, how they progressed, what the current state of play is. Being able to hand that over, in a shift handover in less than 5 minutes is fantastic. All right, so what are some of the key outcomes that we saw? So had overwhelming positive feedback. So we have some of our AO staff have been doing the AO in various functions for 20 plus years. They're brought on as a casual at the beginning of the summer of tennis and they leave us to go back to their regular day job. Some of these people were saying they felt they were supported better than they had been any previous year, which was amazing. They loved the experience, they loved being able to connect with IT through a number of different mechanisms. The experience uplift was outstanding. As I mentioned, across rotating shifts and changing between teams, the ease of access and the fact that the experience was exactly the same regardless of what you were doing was very gratefully received, and really people feeling empowered to help themselves. So, with the EMS and transport applications, we had put out knowledge base articles specifically for the team to reference there. And so the team found it really great that, through this one portal, they can go and ask a question, they can find the relevant information, try that, if that doesn't work, then get into IT all within one transaction effectively. So from an agility perspective, 87% of event tickets were resolved within 4 hours, which is like order of magnitude improvement on previous years. And it's driven somewhat by the improved information collected and really having SLAs in place to really understand as an operator when I'm picking up a ticket, how long has this ticket been there, how long do we have to resolve it? So a bit more of a proactive management approach there. and for service availability. So all changes were managed through the event. We put in place a formalised change management process which allowed us to really implement without any availability impacts during event time. So what's next for us? So this is kind of the first phase of the journey for Tennis, and we're looking to evolve this to provide a better functionality. Some of the things that Mark touched on in his presentation earlier really grabbed my eye, because that is effectively where we want to head with this service management function. So our target state is to have a year-round operating model. So we do things exactly the same whether it's event time or BAU. We want to standardise our training and onboarding model. So as I mentioned, we have casual staff come in to support the event. We want to really key them up to how to leverage this to deliver a better quality service to their players, to their fans, the people that they serve. We want to do that with a self-service mindset. So, the bottleneck with our previous implementation, our previous system, was that everybody had to come up and visit IT, phone IT to try and find out where things were at, and to work with IT to resolve things. We want to shift that back to the customer, where they have all of the resources that they need to be able to resolve these incidents for themselves, and only really the small fraction that aren't addressed through that channel will be what IT needs to focus on. I want to also try and build in knowledge management into the way that we work. So, we talked about some of the AI and chatbot, and that relies on understanding, being able to identify an issue and understanding what information is relevant to that issue. So we want to try and, the tickets that do come through to IT, our last task is to document that so that somebody can self-serve. We want to engineer for availability. So, leveraging our existing monitoring technology. We talked earlier about OpsGenie and using that as a function to be able to bring that monitoring data into perspective when we're dealing with incidents and changes. And we want to set up an orchestration practice where we can look at low-value tasks that consume time from IT but are perfectly template capable, and depending on the information that's passed in, we can execute an automated action to close out the ticket. We're also working to uplift our partner engagement. I talked about transport and connecting them into our service management process. We want to take that as a default approach for all of our vendors. Really, we'd like the service management tool set to really be the central point for you to get your problem resolved, regardless of who needs to be involved in that process. That brings us to the end of the walkthrough. Thank you very much, everyone.
No, thank you. So good, right? Right, Chris. Don't go too far. I know there'll be a couple of questions. We've got time for a couple of questions for either Mark or Chris. But if, like me, you're a bit shy and would rather do it privately, we've got the space afterwards as well. We're going to hang around, have some more coffee, and can have a chat and answer questions then too. Just before we get into that, I just wanted to touch on a couple of quick things. If you've been inspired by what Chris has said, and you're keen to get going, things that I thought might be of interest to you, we've got a couple of packages. One, a jumpstart package for those who are new to JSM and just are so keen to get going, they want some help getting there fast. And also our incident management package for those like Tennis who want to start off with that. These are basically curated by our experts. They're based on experience. We're doing it dozens of times for people. And they're really quick ways of getting you up to speed. We drop in the workflows, the processes, the automation, the dashboards that we know work. We train you all on it, and we basically take you from 0 to 95% in 2 weeks, rather than spending months going through trial and error yourself. So they've been really successful, and we've got a number of other packages coming down the pipeline as well. So know that they are there if you're interested. One other thing, another takeaway, regardless of how you do this, remember small steps. We see people kind of get themselves tied in knots because they try and do everything at once, because there's so many great things. I totally get it. I've stolen this from one of our Now Next Future packages that we walk people through identifying how they can walk up that maturity scale. And it's really looking at, like any technical project, any technical project is also a change project. It doesn't matter how technically capable and clever you are, you've got to bring the users with you on that journey. And everyone's keen for change until you actually ask them to change. So you've got to be clever in how you approach it. What we say is look at baseline your maturity. Where are you now? What are your biggest kind of pain points? And start to chew them off. Quite often we start off with a customer, just getting a good portal in place, get a good process in place for knowledge management. Everyone always forgets it because it's kind of like, it's a bit hard to do, but it pays dividends as we've heard. Get your service request ready, and then we can introduce incidents. And once that's embedded in, and then we can go into assets and some of the really clever stuff at the top end here. How fast you move through these stages depends on your appetite and your capacity and, I guess, effort that you put in. But we can help walk you through this. So again, if you would like a bit of a roadmap for your own personal situation, just let us know. We're more than happy to help. One last thing, just to wrap up on my section, we've got some resources to help you. A lot of information's come here today. I speak very quickly as well, so you might have missed some of the great things I was saying. We're going to send you a link afterwards. All the white papers and guides we talked about. So there's a guide to ITSM. There's also a guide to Atlassian ITSM that we're going to send out, and some of the white papers. We've got a recording of today. We'll send that out as well if you want to watch any of the talks again or share them internally with any of your colleagues. We've also got the training courses that we've linked to. There are some links to free training modules as well on Atlassian University. So just check out our website for that. And of course, you can ask any of our experts at any time. They love talking about Atlassian stuff. They love solving problems. So grab someone in a black polo if you've got any questions. And that is the kind of main part of the session. We're going to have time for a couple of questions just now, and then we'll have a more informal kind of break-up afterwards for anyone who wants to chat. I just want to say a couple of quick thank yous. One, to Beck and the Atlassian team for letting us have this space and getting us organised. Two, obviously, to Chris for coming up from Melbourne, and from Mark, putting these things together when everyone's so busy always takes much longer than you think it's going to, so I really appreciate it. I genuinely hope you found it useful. I was actually riveted through both of them, and I've seen bits of them before, so I think it was great, and I hope you thought so too. I hope you guys thought it was great. Please hang around, have a coffee, grab some more food, and thanks so much for coming. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks everyone.